You don't have a point of reference in life, and it makes you controlled by appetites and dopamine hits. And the purpose of life has to be found, and it shouldn't be an expensive one. My advice is make it a human one, both marriage and preparing for marriage, because the person that you become when you really know and love yourself and want to be in love and in the vibration of love with someone is a very different person than if all you're doing is going through life and then paying for expensive things, vacations, clothing, and using other dopamine hits and appetites like wanting to, eat food to distract yourself. All of that is very expensive, and it's not what life was meant to be. Life was meant to be, I recommend, starting with self-intimacy, which creates post-nut mental clarity, helps you to avoid premarital intimacy, avoid the wrong person who's not your wife. Why would you want to be connected or attached or addicted to somebody who you weren't really excited about and did not respect? So using that self-intimacy, and it's a healthier, more natural format than how people use drugs and alcohol and whatnot. And another thing is massage therapy. Obviously, something you got to be careful about. Should be only done on the same gender. Be careful because there could be predators of the same gender looking for other predators. So you got to be careful with that. But it's all about, guys, it's about using the body as what it's naturally meant to be and not having to have these replacement objects and experiences that are supposed to help us tolerate life. We should be able to enjoy life with the simple pleasures of life. That's why some of the people with the least physical possessions are very happy, because they're able to enjoy simple lives and humans being humans with humans. But obviously that's not an option. We can't trust each other, and I think this is why the feminism has been pushed so hard, is because it actually promotes men to not want a wife, or for women to be masculine and not want a husband. And all that does is it makes people not be able to trust each other. It encourages women's promiscuity, and it makes it so that people end up not trusting humans because everyone's trying to seduce each other. And so you end up getting this society which is very consumeristic, because you're buying things and you're paying for experiences that help you to cope with reality. And so certain people benefit from that, obviously. But, corporations and different people, but even those people, those corporate people, they may not have thought that, hey, they're going to have children, and most people are average people. They're not rich, they're not like crazy, physically attractive or anything. They're normal people, but they can experience great lives if they follow a methodology and an ideology. And so we have all this great technology, but this is actually a preview video to multiple other videos. So one of the videos is about the concept of let's talk privates. So it's about discussing private parts and intimacy, something that people are hesitant and unwilling to talk about. Another video I'm going to be doing is on the hard truths marriage advice, like warning men about the dark women's psychology and about how they might think that it's all good, that life's not that hard and you don't have to think too much about marriage, but it is the biggest decision of anyone's life. It affects you. So that I'm going to do a video about that. And then I also have a few other videos. One of them is about hygiene, actually. And then the other one is going to be about money. And so I'll start off with those, since those are like unconventional, stuff that's different. The money thing is about aggressively saving. Now remember, when you want to get married, you think differently. You're a different person. And so you start wanting to save, and you should be aggressively saving for them, for your wife and for your children, if you're the average person that's going to have a family. And the way you do that is by writing emails to your future spouse saying, okay, I'm saving this money for them. Aggressively saving is doing stuff like making pasta, which, like a flavorful Italian dish, but cheap, like pasta, beans, sauce, onions, instead of going out to get the flavor, that Italian flavor at a restaurant. And so when you start thinking like that, and you want to, it's like, how people aggressively spend. Instead of always feeling like you're entitled, like, I work hard, I should be able to spend whatever I want and I can make it back type of mentality. That all that does is it makes you controlled by others. And if you don't have money, you're basically controlled by circumstances. Like, you have to deal with people you don't want to deal with. You can't be that selective about the work you do and everything. And then the body hygiene video is this concept that the water, similar to how a lot of you may know that tap water is not, it's got like estrogen in it from women urinating out birth control and it recycling into the water supply. It's got different things from paint and commercial applications of sewer water being recycled and everything. So you want to try to not only purify your water, and by the way, pure water filters, they add fluoride, which is incredibly toxic. But the point is specifically about hygiene here. Showering, what it does is it makes you, especially using hot water, it's all going into you by osmosis. The water's going into you. You can do the research on how much it gets absorbed by the body. And so that's why I encourage military showers. That's a quick shower with healthy, or the best, the healthiest soap that you can find, the most, like natural soap. And it's, a military shower. You can warm up by doing jumping jacks or push-ups before it so that you feel warm. But that's that. And back to so that was a little break from my normal conversation, but to show you that I'm thinking consciously about other things as well. I have lots of videos on different ideas. And when it comes to marriage, so let's work on that one here. So marriage advice. Marriage hard truths have to do with realizing that women, don't think that a woman can't hurt you. And realize that a woman might have bad ex-boyfriends. Like, you really want to do a full investigation and realize that the reason that people get into arguments, married couples, is because they didn't properly think out and discuss who they were as people. And when they should have talked about all this stuff. And that would help to avoid conflicts and avoid power plays. Like, even though a lot of people don't like how I say, well, the woman should practice femininity and the men be masculine. But those are only roles. Like the people could switch if needed. Like if the husband was injured, maybe the wife had to work for a year. And it's the kind of thing where you need to have that polarity in order for a marriage to last. There has to be roles and understood a plan. And it should cater to people's natural desires. And a lot of women don't really care about what men think. They're not taught to realize that, well, men do want a pure woman, and men don't want to have to compare like their body and their privates and their money to previous intimate partners a woman's had. And the same goes for men. Like, it is a vice versa thing, but the point is I've got lots of videos about this issue, about women's dark psychology, so those you can research. And the point is it takes a lot. And here's the final point I'll make before going to my last video, which has to do with men's bodies and privates. And the point being that when what happens is, when you are in a boyfriend-girlfriend scenario, unfortunately, you won't be able to think clearly, and you actually have to break up. And I would recommend 2 to 3 years separation so that you can reorient yourself. And I like to use purify yourself and actually think clearly and objectively and analyze, would you be compatible with that person? And so not only is that a time delay, but if you're with the wrong person currently, and imagine you meet somebody who you think is the right person, then that would be really unfortunate too. So don't put yourself in that situation. But to conclude here, so getting into the idea of privates, men's and women's privates. So the first thing is that it is a personal issue, and it's not something that should be casually discussed, like how women might say that, oh, they like larger men's privates, or men might say they like a woman's larger chest. Like, maybe between yourselves in private conversations with the same gender, but not in a public context. And particularly because it's a personal thing that has to do with two single people. And why would you? And the reason people feel a sense of like envy or feel competitive and comparison between different people is because of all this premarital intimacy. But if there was no premarital intimacy, then people wouldn't feel stressed out and comparing each other to each other and thinking about other people's bodies and privates and relationships. And so I'm going to have a whole video about that as well. But yeah, I'm excited to offer this preview, and it's all in the spirit of like people being honest and with themselves and wanting to be in the frequency of love, because the person that you become when you want that is a different person. And so yeah, thanks for listening, and enthused for us to get into this more, and not be afraid to talk about it. These are conversations that some people want to avoid, but we need to talk honestly about them and actually like encourage each other to prepare and avoid premarital intimacy, and get excited and celebrate that, yay, we're going to celebrate that intimacy is good and pleasure is good and addiction and attachment is good if it's to your significant other and spouse. And so celebrate that, and celebrate the idea that, hey, when you're with this person, you're gonna be able to, like I said in the beginning, not worry about all the other things in the world, and you'll, right now you might have one itis for the wrong person, but you'll forget about all these other people and everything. That's what marriage is, and it's about having a full-time emergency contact for your whole life. And so walking into a room, imagine right now, even if you're single, by the way, never tell people you're single, tell them you're preparing for marriage. But imagine for a moment you walk into a room right now as you are, and think about it, how you would feel if you were married, not worried about people being attracted to you, because your spouse by default would be attracted to you. And by the way, you can talk about private and intimate matters over internet, but first you want to establish that you respect the person, you have similar core values, and then you can share with them, revealing pictures, talk about your finances and other personal issues, and then you can honestly assess if you still like each other. There is no hoping that someone's going to like you, or like trying to gamble that you might be able to seduce them with your body. No, it's all supposed to be scientific and logical compatibility, and then you won't have conflicts when you're married, because first you got to fully figure yourself out. If you haven't done that, then what happens if you figure yourself out while you're married? That wouldn't be good either, right? So those are my thoughts and previews, and excited for the individual videos, but that was a full preview disclosure there for you. And remember, most of this stuff is already written down on canceldating.com. I have the book, the ebook at the bottom of it. It's all ideas that are written down and from my notes, so it's all there if you want it all as one resource. And it's all notated with numbers and chapters, so you can say chapter 5, line 130 as references, similar how you can in the Bible. So I set that up too. All right, guys.